Hello children, I welcome you all to our special English hour. Here we learn lots of new things, and while learning these things, we also have fun. Are you ready for some fun? Let's get started. Children, as you all know, we always start our day with something fun and interesting. So today, I have a new tongue twister for you. Are you ready for the tongue twister? The tongue twister is rolling red wagon. I'll repeat, rolling red wagon. Sounds easy? Now, let's try saying this tongue twister faster. Rolling red wagon, rolling red wagon, rolling red wagon, rolling red wagon, rolling red wagon. I tried saying this in one breath and I was able to do it. Were you? Try saying this as fast as you can and also challenge your friends. Children, can you tell me what are you afraid of? We all are scared of one thing or the other in life. When I was young, I had a huge fear of heights. And to overcome that fear, I started trekking. And when I did that, I automatically overcame my fear of heights. Trekking is a form of adventure. Do you know what an adventure is? Adventure is an activity that requires a lot of courage and hard work, but in the end, it gives us joy. Climbing mountains, trekking, hiking, bungee jumping are some common forms of adventure. But it doesn't have to be related to sport. When we were children, going to the school was also an adventure for us. Imagine the first day of your school. Weren't we all scared? It was an adventure for all of us because it was a new place for all of us. Today, we are going to read a story. This is a story, but it is a book review of a story. Do you know what a book review is? A book review gives us information about the story, which means that it tells us what the story in the book is about. It also tells us many other things. It talks about the author. It talks about the genre of the book. It talks about the name of the publication. And it also talks about whether the book is good or bad or whether it is worth our time to read it. So let's get started and get to the main topic of our today's session. Children, before we read today's lesson, let's learn some new words. We all know that it is very important to learn new words to learn a language. So please make sure that you make a note of these words in your notebooks. Destination. 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 We reached our destination in an hour. Expensive. 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 She was wearing an expensive dress. Envelope. 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 There was an envelope lying on the floor. Intrigued. 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 The teacher was intrigued by the students' questions. Territory. 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 Tiger always marks his territory. So children, today we learned 5 new words. Let's revise them. Destination, expensive, envelope, intrigued, and territory. I hope that you remember these words, and I hope that you have made a note of these words in your notebooks. Children, please open page number 94 of your textbook. The name of the lesson is The Phantom Toolbook, a book review. Now, I will be reading this lesson and I request you to point at the words as I read them. If you don't have a textbook, listen to me carefully. Milo was a young boy who lived in San Francisco in the States. He lacked for nothing. Being an only child at home, he was surrounded by all sorts of expensive toys. In school too, there was nothing that he could complain about. But Milo was bored. Nothing really interested him. He thought of everything as a waste of time and school as the greatest waste of time of all. Poor Milo. There's nothing for me to do. Nowhere I'd care to go, and hardly anything worth seeing, he thought. You must have guessed by now that Milo belonged to an age when TV, video games, and computers were not invented. This story is about Milo. Milo was a boy who lived in San Francisco, United States of America. Milo was the only child, which is why he got whatever he wanted. He was very good at studies as well. But there was a problem. Milo was bored. He thought that there was nothing interesting, especially in school. Milo thought that there is nothing interesting to do or see. Children, what do you do when you get bored? Sometimes we read a book. Sometimes we watch TV, right? But Milo lived in an age where there was no TV and definitely not internet. So Milo was a very bored child. But on one long afternoon, like any other, Milo suddenly received a huge parcel with a bright blue envelope attached to one side. The envelope was addressed to him. For Milo, who has plenty of time. Wouldn't you be surprised if something like this happened to you? So was Milo. I don't think it's my birthday, he puzzled, and Christmas must be months away, and I haven't been outstandingly good or even good at all. Milo was an honest boy, so he admitted the last bit to himself. He couldn't return the parcel. There was no sender's address on it. So just in order to be polite, Milo decided to open the envelope. One genuine turnpike toll booth. It was written inside, easily assembled at home and for use by those who have never traveled in lands beyond. One afternoon, Milo received a huge parcel. It also had a blue envelope attached to it. It had a note which said, "For Milo, who has all the time in the world." There was no sender's address. Children, how would you feel if you received a huge parcel without the sender's address? You will be surprised, right? But you will also be intrigued. And just like that, Milo was also intrigued. He wanted to know what was inside the parcel. So he opened the envelope. The envelope read, "Genuine Turnpike Toll Booth." Now, Milo was confused because the note further read, "It is for someone who has never traveled to the land beyond." This was a very mysterious note. So now Milo was very confused. Like you, Milo was also intrigued by the word "lands beyond." There was also a list of the contents of the parcel. It contained one genuine turnpike toll booth to be erected according to directions, 3 precautionary signs to be used in a precautionary fashion, assorted coins for use in paying tolls, 1 map, up to date and carefully drawn by master cartographers, depicting natural and man-made features, 1 book of rules and traffic regulations which may not be bent or broken, and in smaller letters at the bottom it concluded, "Results are not guaranteed, but if not perfectly satisfied, your wasted time will be refunded." Milo was as intrigued as you were when you heard the words "land beyond." He opened the envelope, which also had a list of content, and it had a map, the toll booth, a few coins, and the rule book. Along with all of these things, there was a small note. This note said that if you are not satisfied with the product, then you will be refunded with the time that you have spent. Have you ever heard of a thing where you get refunded with time? Obviously not, but Milo had received a note which said exactly the same. Because Milo had nothing else to do, he followed the directions and erected the toll booth. It was a proper booth with windows and a roof and a coin box. But what's the use? Thought Milo. There was no highway attached to the booth. Nevertheless, Milo set up the precautionary signs, unfolded the map, and chose a destination. He chose it at random because he had never heard of any of the places shown on the map, and so one was as good as any other. Milo was not sure that this new game would turn out to be interesting. However, he sat in his toy car, approached the booth, paid the toll with the coins, and drove past the toll booth. But when he looked back, oh wonder of wonders! The toll booth had disappeared along with Milo's room and even his house. He found himself speeding down a highway into an unknown territory. What happened next is the story of Norman Juster's novel, The Phantom Toll Booth. Milo had nothing else to do, so he decided to give this new game a try. He set up the toll booth with the directions that were given. After that, he opened the map and randomly he chose a destination. The names that were mentioned on the map were the names that Milo had never heard in his life. So he randomly chose a destination. Now Milo got on his toy car and he approached the toll booth. Without thinking much, he put one coin in the toll booth. He didn't know what was going to happen, so he drove past the toll booth. And can you guess what happened? Suddenly, his house disappeared, his room disappeared, and the toll booth also disappeared. What happens with Milo next is given in Norman Juster's novel, which is named The Phantom Toll Booth. Though Milo didn't know it then, he had begun his journey in the land of expectations. He was in the kingdom of wisdom. He had many adventures there. He had to rescue the princesses Rhyme and Reason from castles of air. Was he successful in his mission? Who were the strange people and creatures he met there? What happened to the toll booth? Did Milo see it again? Did Milo find his life interesting later on? You must read the novel to find it out. The novel The Phantom Toll Booth was written more than 50 years ago, but it continues to be a classic of children's literature. It is a fantasy, but it has an important message for children all over the world. It has helped them to look at their school and studies in a new light. At that point in time, Milo did not realize that he was in the land of wisdom. There he started his adventure. He had to rescue the princesses whose names were Rhyme and Reason. What happened next? Was Milo able to save these princesses? Did he ever get back to his house? How was his life after the adventure? All these questions are answered in The Phantom Toll Booth. This novel was written more than 50 years ago. It was a children's novel with a very important message. Children, what we just read was a book review of the book The Phantom Toll Booth. I hope you enjoyed this lesson and I hope that you understood what a book review is. We saw how the narrator has given us a gist of the book and the narrator left it at a point where we were very intrigued. Don't you feel like reading what happens next with Milo? Because I do. I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you enjoyed today's session. I will see you all in our next session. Until then, take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.